Exactly 9 a.m. and of course still driving your business in here, and of course so many other discussions that are coming up. Well, at this very time we're going to get into our business insight. But of course, before we get there, don't forget Zabo with just made your trading experience much more easy and friendly. Start to 92 hash is the magic code, as you'll be available with quite lots of options. You can buy government bonds and securities with as little as 15,000 yen shillings, and definitely life will be made much more better. Zabo, my money, my future. All takes East Africa do something new. And now heading straight to our insight this morning, we shall be looking at the accumulation of the national debt this time around, and of course we see that 6 trillion to be paid. That is on the date, and definitely seeing those matters coming in. And see also in here we see that there is a rise of interest rates, which is also affecting the debts when it comes to paying back the debts. But of course, let's first get into this discussion. I'll be returning right back with further analysis with Jora. Well, and of course, as we await for the insight coming in there, of course, talking about the national debt, which is soaring every other day, and of course, it's been causing quite a lot of questions. That is the different stakeholders, and trying to find ways on how this can be minimized. And one of the ways that is through reduction, that is of internal borrowing, definitely trying to see that everything is put back at an equilibrium of sort. So, Joram, now this is, and before we get into in here, the date is always increasing every other day. And
Peterson was here yesterday, and of course working towards this same report, 86 trillion Ugandan shillings. And when you look at that increasing, at the start of the financial year, we had our debt doubling. The budget was 4.8, was 48.1 trillion shillings, 2020 to 2023. And with that, you had a debt that was accumulating to pretty much 73 trillion, almost twice as much as the budget currently. But now, when you look at the debt accumulating to 80 trillion Ugandan shillings, that means it's increasing. And of course, some of the experts believe that the rise of the interest rates by the central bank, and of course the commercial banks picking it up from there, has led to, or is affecting this debt accumulation and the debts that the government is getting. This is one of the reasons as to why the budget had to be at least a little bit more. We had some budget cuts here and there to prevent going into these extra debts, especially when we have not enough money to finance the budget. So by the look of things here, government for years and years has been advised to reduce on the borrowing. But of course there are certain circumstances that need to borrow. However much, sometimes even with this kind of budget that we have, you will find out that in the next financial year we are likely to borrow in case of any issue that requires a supplementary budget in there, or something that may just come in abruptly that wasn't budgeted for. But then the accumulation of the national debt puts us in a situation that we wish not to be in for our country. That is trying to recover, if I'm to put it in that way, that we are trying to recover as a country back to the post-COVID-19 state, and even beyond that. And we are shooting for the middle income status as a country, as the president always talks about it in most of his dialogues within interactions with the private sector and all that the country is looking towards middle income status. That's why they are empowering wealth creation through empowering households. But now, this is a worry for the entire country, as the debt is actually, increasing. It does worry the business community as much, if you're to look at that, because when you look at the situation is that when we continue having this domestic borrowing, we need to as well understand that if we are to continue borrowing, how are we utilizing these finances? Yes, how are we utilizing the money that we are getting? Or also going back to understanding there are some external funders that come into the picture. That is mention IMF, mention the European Union, mention the World Bank, mention the other funders that give money to the country. Then how do we utilize this money? Sometimes when this money comes in space, we forget to utilize it so well, and it gets back to us. It gets us working. So these are some of the things that you get to look at and say, well, how are we going to deal with this ever accumulating public debt? How are we going to, because at the end of the day, that means out of the 50 trillion Ugandan shillings of the budget, you get to realize that 6 trillion is going off to the budget. So the 6 trillion will be going off to at least pay part of the debt, but that doesn't mean that the debt is decreasing. It is increasing at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that we've had we have decreased it for the time being, because when you pay off, we are decreasing. But the issue is when are we going to wait for it to hit the 100 mark? So that will be a very huge worry for our country.
Okay, well, I guess those are matters that are coming in from there. Of course, the accumulation of the national debt all the time, and of course, I'm experiencing quite lots of limited cash flows coming into the country. 6 trillion to be paid on the debt, and of course, the rise of interest rates, of course, is affecting the dates definitely. And sometimes the more we delay, of course, the personnel that are responsible for giving us this dates kind of rise the interest rates, and our borrowing has to be consistent, but only according that is to the budget. Though sometimes some of these related policies are not followed. Now, government is also reducing domestic borrowing and focus on utilizing, that is, the external forces, as we are reviewing this particular matter, and also the capitalization that is of the Bank of Uganda. Well, let's get into this discussion and we get to see what really transpires in there.